3 days research methodology workshop on measuring social exclusion, discrimination, and inequality. And as you know, this is organized by Indian Institute of Dalit Studies, Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung, South Asia, Al-Beruni Center for the Study of Social Exclusion, and Department of Economics of Maulana Azad National Urdu University during 11th to 13th September 2023. This has been very engaging and meaningful session since yesterday. I today again welcome all the viewers, all the participants sitting in this hall, and our resource persons, Dr. Rajesh Roshan from IIDS. We do have Dr. Ali Sabri from RLS and Dr. Vinod Mishra from IIDS, and many of other colleagues from the university. As you know, all of you have come from different parts of the country. This session today again will be very interesting to understand from one of the renowned scholar who has pioneered the study on discrimination and exclusion in the country. And Maulana Azad National Urdu University is again pleased to welcome one of the distinguished scholar and most sought speaker and resource person for our university, or somebody who look for studying discrimination and marginalizations. We do have today with us Professor Sukhdev Thorat, who is a very famous scholar. You must have read one or the other writings of an Indian economist, educationalist, a writer, a scholar, a leader, and Professor Thorat, who has served as, who was a former chairperson of UGC. He also served as chairperson of Indian Council for Social Sciences Research, and he also retired as professor from Jawaharlal Nehru University. Professor Thorat has not only written in the area of discriminations and other area, but then his works and his writings have in fact inspired, generated curiosity among thousands of scholars worldwide. And perhaps that is the reason that many of us every time look for hearing him, listening him, and trying to understand what is social exclusion, how does he locate discrimination in Indian context. Uh, One of the major study through which we started, myself as a student when we were in JNU, the untouchability in rural India was one of the book which opened our eyes about existing untouchability and discrimination countrywide. Uh, we are very happy to have you, sir, here on behalf of the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Syed Ailul Hassan, and Center for the Study of Social Exclusion. I welcome you for this session, which is for 3 day. The Vice Chancellor and all of us who are very eagerly waiting that you could join us offline, but due to your ill health, we could not join. But listening you is always a treat, always a learning, and every stage of discussion, it makes us to learn new areas and understand the methods and methodology of doing research in discrimination studies. I'll not take much time, and I would not stand between the participants sitting here and you. Once again, I welcome you, and I am thankful that the Indian Institute of Dalit Studies and RLS chose to host this event at Manu, Hyderabad, which is indeed always a pleasure to have such academic gathering among the young students. We do have with us who would be chairing this session, Professor Saneem Fatima. She is a professor in Department of Management, and she has served at various important positions in the university. She is also at the moment director of Human Resource Development Center of UGC at Maulana Azad National Urdu University. Uh, I was just talking to her that this week she was in Delhi, and she was moderating and doing some presentation about her interest in inclusion and diversity in higher educations. Some of her interest makes us that she is very useful and very fruitful resource person for us today morning. So I welcome you again, ma'am, for this session, and I'm thankful that you could spare your time for giving one session with us. So with this, I would not take much time. Uh, I now request Professor Thorat to uh, take his presentation and engage with the students. Thank you so much, sir.
Good morning to all of you. I'm extremely happy to join you at, although on the online mode. Um, I would have liked to join you personally, but now we have this technology which enable us to speak and communicate the view through long distance. It is always a pleasure to have any event in association with Manu. IIDS and me personally has very deep respect and emotional connection with Manu. I know during my period, the Center for Social Exclusion was established by the UGC, and we had invited Kanchalaya as the director, and he has done lot of work in the beginning. So it is always a very uh, emotional event to have any event jointly with the Manu. Uh, my respect to the Vice Chancellor, to all the faculty member and the lady who is chairing the session and participants. Uh, I would like to speak, as has been mentioned uh, by the organizer, Vinod Mishra, Tawqir, and others, that we are discussing here the concept of social exclusion, discrimination, how to measure it, so that the young scholar, new scholar, uh, are able to undertake research. One of the major obstacle in undertaking research on social exclusion, discrimination, its consequences and policy was that beside the lack of theoretical literature, uh, the main reason was concept of discrimination in Indian context, the statistical and other method to measure them and convert those definition into questionnaire, collect the data, and come out. So it's a very difficult job, and therefore, Indian Institute of Dalit Studies have been engaged into this kind of exercise. I would like to share with you that Indian Institute of Dalit Studies was set up in 2003, and I joined as a founding director and also the founder of the institute. And the I began with the first survey on discrimination in 2003, supported by ILO, of three villages in Haryana, UP, and I think uh, Gujarat. And it was really a struggle to develop concept. I was quite familiar with the concept of discrimination developed in USA, but to apply it to the Indian situation, where we have a not only discrimination associated with caste and tribal uh, and also religion, but other social belonging. But we developed the concept, we conducted study, and I think we were able to capture the discrimination. And from 2003 to 2022, IIDS has conducted about 22 surveys, primary surveys, uh, beginning with three villages and small number of households. Uh, we have collected data at one go for 2,000 households. And this is a major achievement of IIDS. The staff of IIDS may not know, but I have completed a book about my own writing. And when I took a stock, then I discovered that we have conducted about 22 surveys, primary surveys, to capture the discrimination and exclusion of various groups, not only scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, but Muslim, Dalit women from Northeast, DNT, denotified tribe, and criminal tribe. So several groups we have uh, studied, and for for each of the group we had to sort of redefine the concept, because the concept of discrimination that apply to caste may not necessarily apply wholly to tribe or to Muslim like religious minorities. So we had to make adjustment. And this came in stages by stages. We learned, our staff learned. We used to sit in IIDS around the table, project the methodology on the screen, and then discuss and develop. Ultimately, in 2029, me and Nidhi Sadhana put up together our all effort to develop the concept of discrimination, indicators of discrimination, and actual method of measuring them. Now, that paper is there on discussion paper. Those who are interested, they should go to the website of IIDS, and that paper by UNICEF is there, which gives you uh, the in a fairly elaborate manner the concept, indicator, and method of measurement. I have listened to two students here that they are working on discrimination, and she mentioned that the methodology that she is using is the self experiences of people. Yes, that's very important. She referred to Govind Pal's remark. Yes, self experiences are very, very important. Although we were told by some people like new director of ideas that you should have a comparable group also. When you take scheduled caste, you should take high caste. When you take Muslim, you should take Hindu. That also we have done. So I think IRDS has made a significant contribution, and therefore we have been promoting. We thought that we have got some insight. We should spread it over. We should pass it on, and therefore I think for last 10, 15 years we have been continuously organizing the methodology workshop. Every year we were organizing. Now that methodology workshop has been discontinued, but now we are putting into in a new form with the help of RLS. So that is a brief history that I wanted to share with you. Now let me come to the main issue that I would like to discuss with you. That is, why are we concerned with exclusion and discrimination of communities associated with caste, tribe, religion, gender, and other social belonging, race, color? There is a reason. We are concerned with the goal of any country, as a matter of fact, is to improve the well-being of the people, bring improvement in their development, human development. And by human development, we necessarily mean that they should have adequate food to eat, they should have reasonably good house to live, they should have access to education, civic amenities. That's what we define well-being. More sophisticated way, we define human development. We call human development index and human poverty index. But in a simple word, our goal is to improve the well-being of the people, reduce the poverty and malnutrition. And therefore, you will see that there are endless studies on interpersonal inequalities, between person inequalities, and huge literature. I did not say anything about that. A recent publication is, of course, by Piketty, which is a millennium book in a way. But the other form of inequality is also noticed, and that is intergroup inequality. That the societies are have groups, various type of groups and social categories. They are characterized by their population is characterized by various diverse groups. And India, not only India, but every country for that matter. In USA, most prominent is of course the black and white, and now Latino, Asian, South Asian. But India is a unique country where you have all the group, all the possible groups that you can possibly find. The caste, of course, is the unique group of Indian society. Then tribal, they can found in other country as indigenous category. Religious minority, Muslim, Christian, Sikhs. Then of course all the possible religion in the world we have. Then there are other categories like of tribal, denotified tribe, criminal tribes. Then the groups associated with color, black and white. Then also race, Northern Indian race, Oriental race vis-a-vis the men. So we have a diversity, but unfortunately, this diversity is associated with disparities. Therefore, the problem that right from the beginning, even before independence, we confronted was intergroup inequalities. And in Indian context, it's the inequality between low caste and the high caste, between male and female, between tribal and non-tribal, between religious minority like Muslim and Christian and the majority Hindu population, between black and white, between racial. Racial, that how uh, the northeastern people face discrimination in Bangalore city, and there was a rumor, and they ran away altogether. We did a study that how racial northeastern women face discrimination in Delhi in housing and other part. So that is racial discrimination. Now, so the major point is that we have a group inequality, and that group inequality, now there are large number of studies. I was possibly the first one which brought out the intergroup inequality in 2000. And then, of course, after the release of the NSS data, then the floodgate opened and everybody started working. And we have ample evidence now of a significant intergroup inequality in India. And we have taken note of it in the constitution. We have taken note of it. We deny discrimination. We talk about equality before law, equal opportunity. We deny discrimination associated with caste or religion or any other forms of social belonging. The and the studies have also come out the disparities by taking several indicators of human development. They have examined the reasons also. There are four methodological issues which are important when we talk about intergroup inequality. One is, of course, first, what is discrimination? What is exclusion? We also mentioned the word exclusion. We also mentioned the word discrimination. What is it? What does it indicate? So that's the first question I will discuss with you because that is a issue related to the concept. The second issue is why discrimination is practiced. Group discrimination is practiced. What is the motive behind discrimination? Second is what are the consequences of discrimination then when the discrimination is practiced? What are the consequences? And last question is the policies. What are the policies which are necessary to overcome discrimination and thereby the group inequality? So these are the four questions which I will discuss with you in a very brief manner. And also in the process, then I will also refer to the concept. Let us begin with the concept of discrimination. Now, concept of discrimination began, it has two sources. One is the the concept of social exclusion emerged first. No, concept of discrimination emerged first. And that came from the economist. The sociologist, Gary Becker, who was a sociologist, but in the Department of Economics of Chicago University. So he was a economic sociologist, you can call it, and worked with the economist Milton Friedman for his PhD. And he brought out the book. That's the first book on economic discrimination. And he developed the concept of what is called market discrimination. Now, why market discrimination? Because we buy and sell commodities through markets. You require consumer good, you buy and sell in markets. You require capital good for production, to produce capital good in the factories. You require inputs. You require financial services. You require many other services. But that all come through market. But some of the goods and services are also supplied by the government, not market, but at a fixed price. So government is also one which supply goods and services and other things to the people. Beside, the people buy it from the market. Now, Gary Baker came with the concept of discrimination. He says that Um, Discrimination means treating equal unequally. To put it in a very brief, treating equal unequally. By law and by moral principle, every human being is equal. And therefore, since every human being is equal, therefore every human being is entitled to equal right. But in actual practice in the market or non-market institution, some people from some group are discriminated. For example, you want to get a job, you don't get a job simply because, not because you don't have a merit, but simply because you belong to a particular social group. You are a white, you are a woman, you are a Muslim, you are a scheduled caste. So merit is not the consideration of denial of employment or giving lower wages, but the merit is the the identity is the identity of the group is the reason why you are denied that opportunity. You are treated unequally, and treating unequally is discrimination without respect to the merit. So that is the concept that he developed. That if you go to the employment market, you will not be hired. If you are hired, you will be given lower wages, or you will have a bad behavior in service. You want to buy certain consumer good, you may not get consumer good, or if you get at lower price. If you want to sell certain goods in the market, because you are being black, you, uh, you will have to charge. Your commodity will be sold at a lower price. So this is the kind of a discrimination that Baker captured in the market, and also he referred to the discrimination in the goods supplied by the government. Uh, Government goods are supplied at a fixed rate, so we don't call market. It's a non-market exchange. The government supplied the good, you know. In India, for example, we give public employment, we give health services, we give um, food in Anganwadi or midday meal. So these are the services provided by the government at there is no price. They are sometimes free, they are sometimes at a fixed price. There also, some group can be discriminated. They can be treated unequally. So the student and the researchers should understand that the discrimination operate through market and non-market exchange or transactions, and certain groups are discriminated. They are not given equal treatment, although they have the same merit, same qualification uh, as the others have. But other are favored, and certain minority groups, certain groups are social group. It's a group concept. It's not individual concept. It's a good concept. Certain groups are denied equal opportunity. Now that is the concept which was developed by Baker. It has now advanced much. It has gone much ahead. I don't want to go into that because uh, we have to talk about other points. So Yarrow, Akraloff, Akraloff has a book now. You must read Identity Economics. It is a book on discrimination, and Akraloff and Cantor both have written this book. Duke University, they brought a sociological analysis into it. Uh, there is a other channel through which the concept of social exclusion came, and that came in 1972 France. A, a France administrator and anthropologist, he developed a concept of social exclusion. Baker developed a concept of market discrimination or non-market discrimination. This French anthropologist come administrator developed the concept of social exclusion. And what is that social concept of exclusion? He began with exclusion of people, those who suffer from certain diseases, leprosy, TB, and other thing. And therefore these people are excluded. It's just like COVID. Here it was physical exclusion, but there also physical exclusion is involved. But then the economists and social scientists then develop this concept or extend this concept of exclusion to the economic sphere and the social sphere. So the social exclusion concept then, as is stand today, uh, it means three things. Just try to understand. It means three things. One is that discrimination means unequal treatment of equals. that is, a group as a whole is discriminated or denied equal right or excluded, have excluded from having an equal right which other enjoy. Uh, Other enjoy employment, they may not get employment. Other may have right to vote, other may not have right to vote. Women did not have right to vote. Men had right to vote. So you are excluded from having an equal right. Now, second features is that you must remember that it is a group concept. It is not an individual concept. It is not an exclusion of individual. It is the exclusion of individual, but it is the exclusion of the group as a whole, and all the individual in the group face discrimination, exclusion. If you take Muslim, uh, all the Muslims which are designated as a Muslim face exclusion. So it is a group concept. It is not an individual concept. I am emphasizing this simply because when there is a policy discussion, there are other people who say that you look, economically better off scheduled castes are also enjoying reservation, and the reservation should go to the economically worse off. They have a point. But economically better off also face discrimination, and they also need a protection. So, economically poor or rich or better off all face discrimination because they belong to a group. So, it is the exclusion of a group that you must remember, and it is the group status is ascribed status. It is, they are designated like that. The third feature we should remember is that denying equal right to a group as a whole. Two characteristic. Third characteristic is that uh, it denied rights and therefore it has consequences. It denied all right: economic right, social right, political right, cultural right, religious right. And so, the since it involves exclusion, denial of right, you suffer. You may not have right to land. Untouchable did not have right to land, right to education till recently. During British period, also they were denied. So you suffered, and therefore you may be more illiterate, you may be more landless, you may be more without entrepreneurship, you may be without political rights, you may be without civic rights, citizenship right. So it has an consequences. So this is the concept of the social exclusion, which came from France, but then expanded by many people into economic and social sphere. So let me summarize. Social exclusion concept stand for the denial of a equal right to a group based on ascribed characteristics, and it has a negative impact on their level of living, and therefore it is a matter of concern. So I have explained you the concept of market discrimination. I have explained you the concept of social exclusion. They are one and the same. The market discrimination also then can form the part of the social exclusion in the market. In fact, Gary Baker also at one stage used the word exclusion. But the best paper that you would like to read to bring a clarity is by Amartya Sen. Those students sitting here, they should read it. Amartya Sen has, in 2000, Amartya Sen has written a discussion paper for the Asian Development Bank, Bank of Manila, and it is called, social social exclusion and concept and something. But very important concept, and you should paper you must read that. Okay, so I have discussed with you the concept of exclusion and discrimination now. So whenever you want to take a study, don't get confused, and you have a clarity now that discrimination either in the market or outside the market by the government necessarily involve denial of equal opportunity which other enjoy to the individual because of their social identity and not because of merit. Social identity means caste, tribe, religion, color, race, gender. That is the key thing that you must. And therefore, we have, because of this discrimination and exclusion, we have intergroup inequality. Let me take a third question now. Why discrimination? Why discrimination is practiced? Why people from certain groups are not given an equal opportunity which other enjoy, although the constitution and law guarantee them equal right? Now, all the theories, particularly in economic theories, by Gary Becker, Arrow, by Akraloff and Cantor, and an African American economist who is a Marxist economist, William Darity. All these 4 5 theories have given the motive behind the discrimination. Now, Gary Baker started argue that taste for discrimination is the reason for discrimination. And what do we mean by taste for discrimination? Now, let me put it in a simple word. The taste for discrimination as a reason for discrimination is mean that people get a psychological satisfaction by helping the poor people of their own belonging, their own group. A Brahmin will get a psychological satisfaction by helping the Brahmin. A scheduled caste will feel satisfied that I am helping my own people. A Muslim will feel psychologically better by helping the Muslims. So, derivation of psychological satisfaction, or you can call psychological utility, is the reason why people discriminate. They favor the people of their own group and reject the others. Arrow and especially William Darity and others, they argue that psychological satisfaction is maybe one of the reasons because you derive utility, but there must be some tangible benefit for discrimination. So they argue that no, you derive psychological satisfaction, but the basic reason is economics, material. When you give an employment to the people of your own caste or religion, who is less qualified, and not giving job to others who are better qualified, the person who is preferred, who is less qualified, is benefited. He get employment, he get income. So if you indulge into discrimination in wages, that you pay higher wages to the person of your own caste or religion or gender and less to the others, that person is benefiting. He is getting a higher wages. So I can give you several examples. The main point here is the argument that is made is that the discrimination is practiced not because of psychological satisfaction alone, and it is not a main factor. It is a secondary factor. The major factor is economic benefit, the material benefit. That is very important, and that is the reason why you find. I'm just deviating for a minute. That is the reason you find opposition for reservation to scheduled caste, to tribe, to religious minorities, to women. Women have been asking for 15 years for political reservation. No, the reason why there is opposition, because the majority, the male or high caste, they feel that the privileges, material privileges that we are enjoying, those privileges are going to be sacrificed. For example, if you give a 40% or 30% reservation to women in politics, so the post to the extent of 30% will be taken away, and males will be deprived. Same is the case in reservation. If you are giving reservation 16% or 8% or 27% to the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, and OBC, to that extent, the high caste do not get it. So the motive behind discrimination is economics, that you must understand. You get a psychological satisfaction that I have helped the person of my own religion or caste, but the main motive economics. Now, for methodological purposes, you have to really understand that you have to measure what are the economic benefit that they enjoyed if you want to prove the discrimination. We have done that. A recent book by me, Madheshwaran and Wani, we have measured the direct benefit to the high caste because of employment discrimination. But I'm not going into that. Now, so these are the 3 issues I have placed before you. The concept of economic discrimination, market, non-market, concept of social exclusion, concept of then the motive behind that, and the third one is of course the consequences. Now consequences is easy to understand, because if you are denied equal opportunity to a certain group because of group consideration, then obviously they will suffer. If you denied, if a classical case is that of untouchable, that they in Manusmriti denied them right to land, right to entrepreneurship, right to education. There is a segregation, residential segregation. Those stay outside the village in a very bad housing condition. They have a limited access to the drinking water and others. Now you can see that is why on all indicators you will find that the scheduled caste suffer. Poverty is very high compared to the OBC or high caste, and because of lack of denial of right to education, the illiteracy level is high among them despite the policies and all that. Income is low. If there is a discrimination in employment, in business, income is low, poverty is high. So the discrimination became a source of higher poverty among the scheduled castes, among the Muslim, among the women. I have seen, I think Khalid may be sitting here. Khalid and myself, we have worked together for Muslim, and we have seen, we have that why Muslims are, the educational attainment rate is very low. They are almost closer to scheduled caste. Reason, there are different reasons for that, but nevertheless, we do not know they suffer from discrimination in education. We do not know, but they definitely suffer from discrimination in regular salaried employment. Muslim, their proportion in regular salaried employment is very low. Uh, uh, so, uh, if you face discrimination in employment, business, farming, uh, restaurant, for example, I am bringing out a book now that in the scheduled caste start a restaurant in a village. No high caste will go to their restaurant. It is only the scheduled caste we will go. Their capacity, purchasing capacity is low. So the income of the scheduled caste restaurant owner is less. He run into losses and stopped. Grocery. They start the grocery shop, high caste will not buy, obviously, because of untouchability. So you can see that the consequences of discrimination vary from group to group, but they are quite high in case of, say, untouchable, then tribal, little less, but Muslim, I think, they suffer from impact of the exclusion, and you require studies. My grudge against you is you are sitting here, and I will say openly, don't misunderstand me. This center is very, very important, and you are not doing enough studies. You should undertake studies on the discrimination of Muslims, consequences, and how discrimination is a source of high poverty, low education, and other things. You must build up. There are ways and means of building that center. Don't wait for the University Grant Commission to give you a post. There are ways and means. I discussed with your Vice Chancellor. I'll come down, but I see there is an initiative that is lacking on your part. You should take initiative, and the center is there, and you should develop it. All those who are working on the Muslims issue or discrimination issue should become an adjunct faculty in the center and do research. That is the American system. So don't say that we don't have faculty. You can group the faculty. Anyway, I deviated a little bit, but I get concerned that you have that center, but it is not coming up as it should be. It should be a leading center on studies on Muslim and religious minorities. Okay, now I think I have end my three questions. Now, a little bit of reflection on the concept, and I will then stop. I am not talking about the policies. Maybe I'll talk on the policies at the end. The concept is that if the concept of discrimination is market discrimination and non-market discrimination, then what we have to do is to define in Indian context what is discrimination and how do you measure, what are the indicators. I think I don't have a time, but those who are interested should read that paper of IIDS on concept, indicator, and measurement. Now, I'll take only one example. For example, if we take market discrimination of scheduled caste, that will apply to Muslim also, that will apply to women also. And we take labor market. So we will say that in labor market, there is a discrimination if the scheduled caste who is equally qualified is not hired, and the high caste is hired who is less qualified. That is how you measure them. Then what we will have to do, you'll have to, when you do a study on discrimination, you will have to see the qualification of scheduled caste and the high caste, who is hired. You have to prove that. After you are hired, then there is wage discrimination. You are given low wages, the high caste is given high wages, equally qualified. So you can estimate wage discrimination. Then discrimination at workplace. The untouchable invariably take lunch at a separate place because of untouchability. So you can develop the indicator whereby you can measure actual discrimination. Concept I have told you, but you can develop the indicator also and measure the discrimination. Similarly, in business, very difficult. But we have done a study for rural area. We have taken the eateries, restaurant, grocery, and transport. Now we found a discrimination in eateries. How do you measure that? We can see obviously that high castes are not coming, scheduled castes are coming and buying, eating some food, noodle or whatever food is supplied. Now you can develop a concept there. How many high castes are coming? How many scheduled castes are coming? What is the price charge? Price discrimination also you can measure. What if you take the grocery, the high caste is not coming, but what commodities they are buying? They buy generally the packed food. They do not buy the loose food because untouchable touches that food, so it is polluted. That is the notion. So you can develop the concept, an indicator, whereby you can measure discrimination. We have done that for auto rickshaw or taxi study. We have done. You have to ask those who own the taxis and rickshaw that who are your customers, and they will tell high caste, low caste, and then you ask your question, why low caste are, high caste are coming lesser number. They will say yes. Then you ask whether there is a cost attitude is the issue. They will say yes or no. So you have to develop an indicator whereby you can capture discrimination, and that is possible. So now that paper will give you the actual indicator and to measure the discrimination. Now the most difficult part is, which we have really struggled hard in IRDS, is to translate. You know what is discrimination, what are the indicators, but you have to translate that indicator in questionnaire, and you have to write the questionnaire in a manner such that you are able to capture it. That is the most challenging task that we have failed, and some of the studies where we got a limited result, then we improved upon. For example, we used to ask, do you face discrimination, yes or no? So you have yes and you have no, and you work out the percentage. Now you don't get the actual nature of discrimination. So then we say, well, let us have a focus group discussion. Let us bring scheduled castes together at one place and ask them question. So somebody will say yes, somebody will say no, somebody will describe the story. So you get an insight. Then if there are certain prominent form of discrimination, you can go for case studies, pick up 4 or 5 individual, ask their life stories. So you get a deeper insight. You can have also experiment. We have done that for Rajasthan. In a midday meal scheme, we put a camera, hidden camera, when the food was being served to the children of high caste and low caste. And then hidden camera bring out that how untouchable children were given food at the end. So they will stand there and they will see how high caste are eating first and then leftover they get. So you can see the psychological impact. We also had a hidden camera when we interviewed the temple priest. And temple priest was asked, will you allow the untouchable to enter into the temple? He said, no, that is a different blood. We are different. So the point is that you have to apply quantitative method where yes, no questions are asked, then group discussion, case study, then video recording, experiment, because and then capture social discrimination. Why? Because social discrimination is embedded into social relationship. Very difficult to capture, very subtle, very indirect. But you have to develop different methods, additional method whereby you can capture. We have been able to do quite successfully. In fact, in IRDS, we have we have not only studied, we began with scheduled caste and untouchable, but we extend to tribal, we extend it to Muslim and religious minority. We have studied on Muslim, we have studied on Christians, Dalit Christian particularly. We have a study on Dalit women in Panchayat. We have a study on Northeastern women, how they face discrimination because they are non-vegetarian and they cook in a particular style, and as a result, the high caste neighbor feel uncomfortable, or we capture. So there are two things here I will make. We have covered new sphere. First, we talk about employment discrimination, then we used to wages, then we went to occupation, then we went to entrepreneurship, then we went to farming. We have a paper on farming also, how farmer face discrimination. And then non-market discrimination. We have taken all the government scheme, IRDP, midday meal scheme, public employment. We expanded the sphere of measuring discrimination. That is one aspect. The second aspect, we have expanded the group. We began with scheduled caste, but we extended to tribe, denotified tribe, Muslim, and all that. So, but each time you have to then change the definition a little bit. For example, denotified tribe. They don't suffer from caste, but they suffer from what is called stigma of criminality. They were declared criminal, and then they were denotified as a criminal. But that stigma continues. If there is any theft around the area where the scheduled castes are, where the DNTs are living, they are the first one to be captured and put into the jail. That stigma is there. There is a prejudice that they must have been involved. Now you have to develop a different methodology for that. Discrimination is there, but the nature of discrimination different, so you have to develop. So it is a lot more challenge, but we have developed that. Similarly, on the consequences and the motives in the questionnaire you can ask, and that motive you have to ask only to the scheduled caste or the parties we suffer. That do you think that caste is the reason for discrimination? Do you think religion is the reason for discrimination? Do you think the gender is the reason for discrimination? Do you think color is the reason for discrimination? You get the answer. Now, some of them say that this is as well self-experiences, but that is a proper method. There is no doubt about it. And so you get the reason then. The third is the consequences. You can estimate the consequences also. We, for this book particularly, for the first time, Madheshwaran, Vani and myself, employment discrimination, we have estimated what is the impact of discrimination in employment and wages on income and poverty. And we found out that if there is no discrimination, the poverty of the scheduled caste will reduce by 9%. But if there is a discrimination, their poverty will increase by 9%. Now that is a very solid proof. And then we also estimated discrimination in the private sector, huge discrimination in the private sector in employment, much higher than, of course, the public sector. So consequences you can measure. We have also measured the consequences of discrimination faced by a farmer, discrimination faced by entrepreneur, discrimination faced by eatery owner. We generally ask them, what is the loss because you high caste customer do not come? So they tell you. So this is although approximate, but you do get the extent of consequences. And then, of course, at the end, I will summarize by saying that if you are able to prove that some groups are at a lower level of development because of discrimination and exclusion, then there is a need for policies. Because this lower development is not because of anything else, that you don't have this thing, you don't have that. No, it is because of discrimination, denial of equal opportunity in access to employment, wages, entrepreneurship, education, all that comes to. And as a result of this, it results into a lower home development. And we have in IIDS, we have spent our entire life on inequality first. Discrimination came later. So there is a very consistent pattern I can see, that the most deprived are tribal, Above them are scheduled caste, and then come the Muslim, and then come OBC, then come high caste. Among the minorities, Christian and the Sikhs are better off, Jains are at the top, and high caste at the top. This is the hierarchical system of group inequality, whichever indicator you take. I have examined from several angles. It's a very stubborn and very persistent pattern of group inequality in India. So you require policies. You cannot say that I will have individual policies. I'll give scholarship to one particular person. Yes, you do give a particular person, but you have to cover the group as a whole. Now the policies are of two type. We 3-4 types of policies are there. One is of course the legal protection, that discrimination should not be allowed. If it is practiced, there is a legal action. And we have a law for scheduled caste. We have Untouchability Offence Act. We have Atrocity Act. Women have the Gender Discrimination Act. So act is one measure. Second measure is that even if you are there is a law, you feel discrimination, and therefore you don't get enough share in employment, enough share in business. So we develop a mechanism whereby they get a adequate share, and that is reservation policy. That let us give them share in proportion to their population. So reservation policy. Third one is that because of the denial of economic right and education right, many of the scheduled castes are landless, illiterate. So we have a program of helping them to enhance their education, enhance entrepreneurship, giving them land. And now we are saying that this is a program of economic empowerment, but now we are looking at it differently. We are saying that this is a compensation, reparation. Amit Thorat is working on that. RLS has given that study, that economic and educational empowerment of Muslim or scheduled caste should not be treated as a sympathy and pity, but it should be treated as a compensation for the purposeful denial of opportunities. Those who discriminated, they benefit at the cost of denial of equal right to the who are discriminated. So I think I'll stop it here. I have covered, broadly speaking, the various aspects of the concept and measurement. Thank you. I can take question if you have.
Respected sir, thank you so much for your such an engaging talk on types of discrimination, the indicators, and the measurement. May I first request questions from the audience, please? All the participants. Yes. Questions, please. Be brief about the question.
Hello, sir. Thank you for the lecture, and I'm really glad to have this opportunity to interact with you. Sir, I just wanted to talk about the idea of privilege. So, one perspective is that persistence of inequality in society is because of discrimination which is being practiced. And like you also said, that discrimination is denial of opportunity because of group identity and not because of lack of merit. But merit in itself is not a very objective phenomena. Merit itself can be defined based on the majoritarian group identity and their ideas of what is good and what is bad. So so merit itself is not a very objective measure, and there are so many norms which are in place. For example, in employment, uh, employers studies have found that employers would say that they have not hired people from scheduled caste not because they are from that particular identity, but because they lacked certain soft skills that they wanted in the people who they employ. So the lack of soft skill is given as the reason, and they say that if the soft skills were present, then the employment would have gone to them. Similar things are seen in schools, where in choosing monitors or school captains, certain things are given more importance, and it happens to be that those traits tend to belong to the upper caste. So, would this be called discrimination, or would this be called the persistence of privilege in society, unearned advantages which benefit people? Just wanted to know your perspective.
Okay.
First thing is about the merit. Yes, there are differences of opinion what constitute merit. But the concept of discrimination tells you that whatever concept of merit you take, You may disagree with that concept. That's another matter. Whatever qualification you prescribe and define as a merit, that concept of merit is not applied equally. Even if a person from certain group have that qualification, he or she is not selected, other with a low qualification is selected. That you must be absolutely clear. Don't fall in the trap of this high caste academician that merit, they don't have merit. Yes, they may not have merit, so they are excluded on merit. That is fine. But we provide an evidence. We provide an evidence that given the equal merit, equal qualification, why are certain people from certain group excluded and others are given a preference who are less qualified? That is the concept, and you should prove that empirically. We have done that. The second point was what was the second point? Can you say? Ask.
So I was just saying that there are so many norms in place in society which tend to
Yes,
benefit.
privilege.
Yes.
Yes, I understand now.
Yes.
Now, listen. I think that's a good question. When one particular group is denied equal right, and other people enjoy those rights, but the concept of discrimination also involve one more thing, which I have not shared with you. That is the theory of prejudice of discrimination by Bloomer. Psychological theory of discrimination by Bloomer. What Bloomer is arguing, this or these people are arguing, is this, which I have not shared with you for the sake of time, is that in society there are groups. Just like in this society, we have a group and social categories. Now, one social category laid down norms as to how they should behave with the other category. Perfectly fine, no problem. Muslim laid down their norm. How do they behave with the Hindus? Hindu laid down their norms. How do they behave with the high caste and the scheduled caste? So norms are laid down by social categories or group. But those norms are not fair. They are discriminatory. That we will not intermingle with them socially. We will not help them. We will not have economic interrelationship with them. That kind of discriminatory norm are laid down. There is a third thing which you ask, and that is real, that we are a social group, we have higher right, and that we are a better group than them. And therefore, we have a privilege to have special right, and they do not have. So it is called proprietary right. William Darity and others, they have argued basically that in a society, if there is a dominant group and the subordinate group, the dominant group feel that they have not only have a special rights, but other do not have, but they think that their privileges, they should have special privileges. Now, Brahmin, for example, in the entire Manusmriti Sivan, the Brahmin will have all these privileges. The untouchable do not have. So the concept of involved in the caste system and in the theory of discrimination as such. There is a third there is a feeling among the dominant group that they being superior, they have special right and they have special privilege and other do not have. That also is important aspect of the discrimination.
Thank
In
you,
fact,
sir.
this concept has been taken to the height in as far as the caste system is concerned. If you look at Manusmriti, the Brahmin is Bhudeva. Bhudeva means Lord of the universe. And as by virtue of being a Lord of the universe, the Brahmins have all the right, no restriction. Although their occupation is teaching and preaching, but they can take agriculture, they can start business, they can do anything that you like. Not slavery, not wage labor. So this concept of privileges is important.
Yeah, next question, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the wonderful lecture. Sir, my question is, what are the ambiguities in the concept of social inclusion? So, as noted by author Naila Kabir, there is an adverse incorporation that associated with the process of social inclusion. So, is there any possibility while the agency of any group, either women, Dalits, or tribes, or the queer community, be submerged in the process of social inclusion? So, what do you think, and what's your take on this question? Thank you.
No, now there, there is a concept of inclusion. Now there is a concept of social exclusion which has come up now. But what does the concept of social exclusion mean? Social inclusion means that those who are excluded and not given equal right, they are given equal right. That is inclusion. They have equal access to all the things that the high caste or other group enjoy. Now, that inclusion can be of a various type. That is, of course, the economic right, social right, marriages. That so inclusion will come through several ways. I don't know what is this adverse inclusion is, but the basic concept, if it has to be there, social inclusion means that those who are discriminated and excluded in the past, they have to make a part of that society on an equal footing and submerge with the major society. That is inclusion in real sense of the term. But the inclusion means necessarily that they have equal right, equal behavior, and equal participation and equal communication.
The last question, please. Only one question. We're running short of time. Yes, sir is also not feeling well. Let's not.
No, it's okay. They can take, the student can ask. No time limit on them because they are taking research. I would have liked to come personally, interacted with them, but they can ask.
Sir, how can we measure social alienation? For example, a student is entering into a class who is consider that student is not privileged enough to wear a good dress, and the whole class is wearing a good dress. So there is this kind of alienation, very innate, very sensory, that this student feels. How to measure that kind of very innate alienation that student feel in a spatial or temporal space or temporal category, and how can we tackle that?
It's a very interesting question that you have asked. As I earlier said that capturing through statistics and through evidence discrimination and exclusion and isolation is a difficult thing, but nevertheless it can be done. Now, I was faced with this challenge when I hope some of you are doing studies on discrimination in higher education. I was asked to chair a committee in All India Institute of Medical Science to study the discrimination faced by the medical student. And that was the first attempt. And I did not have any support from the high caste. Even the scheduled caste would not come forward because of fear. But finally, I interacted and 25 students filled up the questionnaire. And one of the aspects was this alienation and harassment. See, you can measure alienation. For example, the peer group are based on caste. Scheduled castes have their peer group, women have their peer group, Muslim have their peer group. The high caste have their peer group, and the interaction between this peer group and even the individual is much less. Now, for a scientific study, how do you capture this alienation in terms of interaction? First is the peer group. You ask them whether your friend circle is of the same caste, same religion, same gender. You can get an idea. Then you can ask sphere. In which sphere alienation occur? Now in IIM study, what I came to know that there is a dining hall, there is private mess and public mess. Public mess is cheaper, so most of the scheduled caste will go to public mess. Most of the high caste will go to private mess. But if the scheduled caste who are economically better off want to become a part of the private mess, they won't be allowed. So there is an alienation in dining, exclusion in dining, alienation, isolation. Then I discover that residential alienation, isolation. The rules in AIMS is open. Whenever the room is vacant, it will be given to the student, irrespective of his caste background or religious background. But once the scheduled caste student get the room, and if his partners, the neighbor are high caste, he or she start feeling discrimination. The scheduled caste boy who committed suicide there, they used to write on their board all kind of things. His room will be bolted from the outside, so you'll have to call his friend. So there is an harassment. This is harassment. This is not alienation. So what do? There is a rule then that whenever there is a room vacant, first priority is given for a change, and then the room is given to the new person. So the scheduled caste student will change the room in a quadrangle, in a wing where scheduled castes are there. So at the end of the year, they discovered that all scheduled castes are concentrated in a one wing. Why? Because of discrimination and harassment. But residential alienation has happened. Segregation has happened. So you have to identify the sphere where the alienation is practiced. All India Institute of Medical Science has a festival called Pulse. So there, the scheduled caste students are excluded. They are not allowed to. They are not included in tennis play. They are asked to play football, and they are not on several committees. So you have to identify the sphere, where you are excluded, and you can then see the alienation. And then there are psychological consequences, of course, huge psychological consequences of alienation, isolation, health impact. What you have to do is that IIT Mumbai, after the suicide, and even before the suicide, conducted surveys, a very important survey. They were not allowed to be published, but people have sent to me. And people have, scheduled caste don't have come in open. And particularly strike is in humiliation, humiliation in the sense, quota person. So all kind of words are coined to humiliate them. Now, same is the case with, we had seen that video of a Muslim girl, how she was harassed because she had a burqa, and the Hindu youth, sort of talked to her and harassed her, and she was very wild. Now, these are humiliations, because of dress. So there are various forms through which the scheduled castes are humiliated, and then they have done one survey. What is the impact on the mental health? And about 28% of the HC students say that they constantly have a psychological pressure on their mind. And out of those 25, one or two students are such that they cannot bear it, and then they go to the last resort, that's the suicide. So there are several aspects of discrimination, but you can capture it. And the best way is self-experience, and also bringing together. In fact, they followed a methodology whereby they brought high caste and low caste students together in a hall and asked both of them to talk. And many things came out, really.
Yeah. Last. There. One question.
Hello, sir. Myself, Sajid.
Yeah.
Sir, thank you for giving a wonderful lecture to us and enlightening through your lived experiences. Sir, my question is that, while understanding any economic strata, like elite class, middle class, and the poor class, at the same time, while understanding the castes, so there are subgroup as well. So how do we understand their discrimination, as you reflected that the four methodological issues, like what is the discrimination, how is the social exclusion are being taken place, and why discrimination are being practiced, what is the motive, and what are the consequences of discrimination. Even while taking these things into account, and while looking at the caste perspective itself, that whole community as a whole, they are being discriminated itself, among the group they are doing the practices. What's your thoughts on this?
Very, 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 very important question, of course. You know that we do not have only 5 castes, but we have subcaste within the caste. And several people give several numbers, 3,500, 4,000, whatever. But you do have subcaste even among the scheduled caste. And there are differences between them. There is the marriages, at times residences, at times sitting and eating together. So there are isolation and exclusion and discrimination between the subcaste within the scheduled caste, or between the subcaste within the middle caste, or between the subcaste within the Brahmin also. So there is a problem. There is no doubt about that. The whole problem of Mala Madhika in Andhra Pradesh, or Mahar and Matak Chamar in Maharashtra, or Valmikis and Chamar in Haryana, or the Jatos and the rest of the subcaste in UP. So there is a problem. There is no doubt about it. And in many states, they have introduced the subcaste reservation. Bihar has done that. The issue is what you have to, a scholar like you have to look into is this, because there are people, particularly high caste academician, try to make use of this, advantage of this. Now, this I am talking about the caste, but even Muslim have subcaste. Muslim have OBC. In NSS data, when you ask them, are you a scheduled caste? They say, yes, we are a scheduled caste. So you get certain percentage of scheduled caste among the Muslims, which means former untouchable. OBC is, of course, the clear category. They are entitled for reservation. So they are former OBC, we converted to Islam. So there is a segregation and subdivision within the Muslim. Same is the case with Christian. Dalit Christians' problem is serious among the Dalit. So we have that reality, we must recognize. But coming to the caste issue, what one has to understand is, what is the nature of discrimination and exclusion? You cannot generalize and summarize, because some of the academicians generalize and summarize to deny discrimination. You also follow discrimination. Scheduled castes also follow discrimination. So why do they talk about discrimination? That is the line of argument that is taken. But the responsibility of the researcher here is that what is the nature of discrimination being followed within the subcaste among the scheduled caste? And then you can come out clearly. So, for example, among the scheduled castes, perhaps all the scheduled castes eat together, sit together. May not be, maybe Valmiki, they face some exclusion, but all the scheduled castes, Mang, Chamar, Matang in Maharashtra, Mala, Madhikai, sit together, eat together. They don't follow untouchability. Untouchability is between all the untouchable taken together, Mala, Madhikas taken together, and the high caste. But within them, there is no untouchability. What they have is the social discrimination. They may not have marriages. Their residency may be slightly different, but they are socially fairly interactive in marriages, in dinner, in sitting together, helping each other. There is no anti-caste comment. Now that difference has to be brought out. Or you take Muslim. Yes, there are earlier untouchable converted to Islam. There are OBCs converted to Islam. And then there are Sheikhs and Khan. And then there are differences in, say for example, in marriages or whatever, our professor from JNU, he has expired, I don't remember his name. He brought out the casteism, caste in the Islamic society first. But one has to understand the nature of discrimination. Is there untouchability in Islam? No. I have seen on Eid days, I am in a center where there were half of them were Muslim and then other Hindus. But on Eid days, those low people who are supposed to be the former scheduled caste, they come, they embrace each other. There is no touch me notism. So you have to identify where the Islam has eroded caste system and where the caste system or social distinction has not been eroded. That is the realistic interpretation. But the other academicians try to make use of it. Their intention is different. Or if there is a caste system within the scheduled caste, how can you argue then? You take care of your this thing. That is the kind of dubious argument is made. So you have to be careful. Yes, this society is stratified. There is no doubt about it. There is discrimination, but discrimination within the caste is different than the discrimination between the caste. The basis of reservation is untouchability by the high caste against the scheduled caste. So they want to spoil that concept. So you have to be careful. You focus on what is the nature of discrimination, and based on the nature of discrimination, you capture it, then the policies can come in.
So my name is Mushira, and
Yeah.
first of all, I would like to thank you for taking us through the concept of social exclusion and discrimination in a very easy and approachable manner. So my question is that what are your views on the ethical challenges while measuring discrimination? Like you mentioned about that a hidden camera was placed to record the views of the priest. So someone might call it unethical, but at the same time, it becomes very important to get the point of view of both the sides, like the person who is being discriminated and the person who is doing the discrimination. So how to go about it?
No, this is a very important question. I think nowadays, if you want to publish a paper, you have to refer it to the ethical committee. And unless the ethical committee clear it, the paper is not clear. Vinod Mishra, who is the executive editor of 2 journal, he has a tough time to do that. My general suggestion would be that we should follow those ethical standards. We should not name caste, name person. If it is a video case, I have quoted, we should not have done it. But what you can do is you can tell him that can I videotape the interview? If they say yes, then you go ahead. In fact, there is a third interview in Rajasthan village with a high caste, and we asked him, can we videotape it? He said yes. And he openly said that scheduled caste ka खून और हमारा खून तो अलग है, इकट्ठा कैसे हो सकते हैं, हम सरीके कैसे हो सकते हैं. So I think you should follow ethical principles, and some may not agree, but so you have a loss of information, but you have to live with that. Yes.
Thank you, sir. We are really, all of us here are really honored to benefit from your rich scholarship this morning. So we are also inspired in spite of your health, what we are seeing. You have addressed and taken us to the journey of basics of social exclusion and discrimination. I hope the researchers here will take up research from this clues what sir has provided, and especially with relation to the human development and the outcome of your research studies, whether it is a research papers or the case studies or some mini projects what you take up, will help us in achieving human development and also working towards the SDGs. Thank you so much, sir. We are honored to be here. I thank you profusely on behalf of Center for Exclusion, Maulana Azad National Urdu University. We look forward for your presence at Manu, sir, at the earliest. Wishing you good health. Thank you.
Yes, I am a visiting professor and I am obliged to come once in a year and give a lecture. So I have to do my responsibility. I will come before December, certainly. Yeah.
Most welcome, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
So shall I exit now?
Yes.
Thank you so much, sir. Our Dean, Professor Farida Siddiqui, had to go for an urgent work. She conveyed her greetings, and definitely we are looking forward to see you. We are 2 scheduled program in October and November, so maybe she'll be in touch with you for inviting personally. Thank you so much on behalf of the university, and I also thank Professor Saneem Fatma for chairing the session and all the participants. Thank you so much. We conclude this session.